You don't need more. You need to use what you already have. The screen is dark. Silence. Then a soft light. A small room. Plain. No decoration. No noise. Just space. In that space, there's a man. Not a hero. Not a celebrity. Not someone with millions of followers. Just a man. Alone. Still. Breathing. He wakes early. The world is still asleep. The sun hasn't touched the windows yet. No grand gym. No perfect kitchen. No luxurious workspace. Just cracked walls, a wooden table, and a few old tools scattered nearby. And yet, he begins. This is the kind of beginning no one applauds. There are no claps. No cameras. No validation. Only motion. Quiet, deliberate motion. He puts on his worn-out shoes. Ties them with rough fingers. They've carried him through more than most would guess. He doesn't care how they look. They still carry him forward, because he understands something the modern world forgets. Progress has nothing to do with what you have, and everything to do with what you do. He picks up a rusted dumbbell. There's no chrome shine, no matching set, just weight, and gravity, and effort. He lifts. No music, no mirror, just the sound of breath and repetition. In that moment, he isn't thinking about what he lacks. He isn't comparing. He isn't scrolling. He's present fully, because he knows everything you think you need is an excuse. You say you need better equipment, more time, a nicer place, a mentor, a loan, a sign, but he doesn't wait. He works. He builds. He doesn't ask the world for permission. He doesn't post about the grind. He grinds, in silence, alone, without asking anyone to notice, because deep down he understands. Simplicity is power. In a corner of the room is a notebook. Old, tattered. Inside, no affirmations, no fluff, just systems, routines, clear intent. He writes. Each page is a contract, not with the world, with himself. Not promises to impress, but commitments to keep. No one reads them, but he lives by them. Because greatness doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you repeat, day after day. Quiet, relentless, unshakable. This room may be small, but in it a mountain is being moved. Not outside, inside. Because this man, with no audience, no spotlight, no status, is doing the one thing that separates men who talk from men who change. He is using what he has. You keep waiting for more. The perfect timing, the ideal tools, the motivation to strike like lightning. But you don't need lightning. You need matches and the courage to strike them. Look around. You have enough. Enough air in your lungs. Enough blood in your veins. Enough will left in your bones to begin. Even in silence. Even in a small room. Even without applause. Because this moment isn't about the world. It's about the decision. Will you use what's in your hands, or will you keep reaching for what's not? He tightens his belt, fills a jug with water, counts his coins. Nothing about this life is glamorous, but everything about it is sacred. The simplicity becomes his temple, the repetition his prayer, the discipline his offering. In a world addicted to more, he becomes dangerous because he becomes enough. No one can take that from him. Not poverty, not failure, not isolation, because his power doesn't come from what's around him. It comes from what's within him. The camera pulls back. The room seems smaller now, not because it shrinks, but because he grows. He moves differently, not frantic, not unsure. Purpose fills his breath. Clarity moves through his hands. He is not chasing motivation. He has moved beyond it. He is not chasing rewards. He has moved beyond them. This is not hustle porn. This is sovereignty. The sovereignty that says, I don't need to be seen to be valuable. I don't need more to begin. I will not delay my evolution for the sake of comfort. He eats simply, works deeply, fails often, but gets back up even faster. He doesn't complain. He recalibrates. There's a certain dignity in this kind of life, a nobility in the unseen struggle. Because while the world is screaming for attention, he is building the kind of man that doesn't need it. No shortcuts, no handouts, no noise, only work, only focus, only what's in front of him. And here's the truth. You can build a life of power in a room like this. You can craft your body, sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, right here, right now. You don't need the algorithm to favor you. You don't need the audience to applaud you. You don't need another perfect day to start. You need a reason and the discipline to act on it. That's it. He finishes his set. The reps weren't perfect, but they were honest. He takes a deep breath, not in triumph, in peace. Because deep peace only comes when you didn't cheat yourself. He lights a small candle, not for mood, for ritual, to remind himself, another day is done. Another brick was laid. No one noticed. No one clapped. But he knows. And that's enough. Because here's the truth no one wants to hear. You can have less and still win. You can start with broken tools and still build greatness. You can be in a small room and still become a giant. But only if you stop waiting. Only if you stop making more your God. Only if you realize your life doesn't need to be bigger. You do. And that begins the moment you stop asking for more and start using what you already have. Right now, where you are, with nothing but the will to begin. The myth of not enough. They say they're waiting for the right time, waiting until they feel ready, waiting for a little more money, better conditions, some kind of sign. But here's the truth. That right time is a myth. It doesn't exist. It never has. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And whether or not you move, you tell yourself, I just need more resources. But you already have the most important one, your will. Everything else is secondary. That idea of not enough is not real. It's a story you tell yourself. It's the mind looking for comfort, the ego avoiding pain, the fear resisting growth. It's an illusion dressed as logic, a lie wrapped in a perfectly rational excuse. You say, I can't start this business without capital. But people have built empires with nothing but grit and consistency. You say, I can't train properly without the gym. But warriors were forged with stones, fields, and raw intensity. You say, I'll wait until I feel inspired. But action creates inspiration, not the other way around. You're not waiting because you lack. You're waiting because you believe the lie. It's easier to wait. Waiting asks nothing of you. It feels like you're doing something when you're doing nothing. But every second you spend waiting is a second you're choosing weakness. Real growth doesn't come in perfect conditions. It comes in motion when your hands are dirty, your mind is focused, and your body is engaged. Growth comes in the tension between discomfort and discipline. The place where your heart beats harder, your breath gets sharp, your mind starts screaming, and you choose to keep going anyway. That's where transformation lives. Most people will never reach it. Why? Because they're too busy polishing their excuses. They want everything to be set up perfectly before they move. But Stoicism tells the truth. You don't control the timing. You don't control the weather, the economy, or the opinion of others. You control your actions. You control your attitude. You control how you show up right now with what you have. And that's where your freedom is, in owning what's in your hands. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Understand this. You can't wait for perfect conditions because they don't exist. Every man who built something great started with something small. And every man who made history faced the same chaos you're facing now. It wasn't easier for them. They just didn't wait. They took the little they had and multiplied it with effort. They turned scraps into systems. They turned pain into purpose. They didn't say, I'm not ready. They said, let's begin. What if you stopped saying, not yet? What if you looked at the very little in your hands and said, this is enough because I will make it enough? That's what power is. Not more resources, not more tools, but more resolve. You don't need a bigger opportunity. You need a stronger commitment. And when you commit fully, something happens. Your mind sharpens. Your focus deepens. Your energy shifts. Because clarity doesn't come when you have everything. It comes when you start moving with what you've got. Here's the truth. If you had more time, you'd still waste it, unless you learn discipline. If you had more money, you'd still stall, unless you learn clarity. If you had better tools, you'd still fumble, unless you learn consistency. So stop making the lack your excuse. Make it your edge. When you don't have much, you learn to use everything better. You squeeze the full value out of every hour, every meal, every rep. every breath. That's how real men are made. Through scarcity, through necessity, through movement under pressure. This is where most people break. They see lack and they give up. But those who win, they see lack and they train. They use it. They say, I don't have much, so I must become more. They become smarter, sharper, stronger, not because they were given more, but because they decided to use more of themselves. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." What's your excuse today? That you're tired? That no one believes in you? That you're not sure where to start? Good. Now move anyway. Because every step you take without comfort builds character. Every action you take without permission builds confidence. And every time you push without perfect conditions, you build the one thing that cannot be taken away. Yourself. So here's the truth, with no fluff. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the perfect setup. And if they did, you still wouldn't be ready. Because readiness isn't a moment. It's a mindset. You don't wait to feel ready. You decide to be ready. You draw a line in the dirt. You plant your feet. You say, this is enough. I will make this count. And then you begin. A man who waits for everything gets nothing. But a man who moves with little builds everything. So look around. What do you already have? Time, energy, the ability to think, to move, to act. You're breathing. You're alive. You still have fight in your bones. That's enough. Don't wait. Start. Take the next step. Send a message. Do the rep. Write the plan. Shut off the distractions. Get quiet. Get serious. Because what you do right now with what you have defines where you'll be 1 year from today. And if you don't use what you have today, you'll still be saying not enough a year from now. But if you move, just move, you'll prove that the myth was never true. That you didn't need more. You just needed to stop hiding. You just needed to begin. Now, right here, with what you have. Because what you have is enough. The power of constraints. They say they'd succeed if only they had more. More time, more tools, more money, more freedom. But that's not how strength is born. Strength doesn't grow in excess. It grows in the confines, in the pressure, in the limits you think are holding you back. The truth? Constraints are the sharpening stone of greatness. When the path is narrow, you walk straighter. When resources are scarce, you value everyone. When options are few, your focus becomes fierce. A man with everything becomes distracted. A man with little becomes precise. This world tells you to chase comfort, to seek ease, to avoid struggle. But what if the struggle is the way? What if the very thing you think is holding you down is the exact thing shaping you? Limits force choices. They demand clarity. They remove the fluff. A man who has everything doesn't have to think. He doesn't have to adapt. He doesn't have to dig deep. But a man who begins with nothing must think, must plan, must become something more than what he has. You say, I'm limited. Good. That's your gift. Limits force you to be creative. They remove the luxury of laziness. They push you to find new angles, new tools, new strength you didn't know was there. A blade is not sharpened in silk. It is sharpened in friction. And so are you. Look at every great builder, creator, thinker. They didn't begin with abundance. They began with pressure, with necessity, with the need to figure it out or be forgotten. Constraint is not your enemy. It's your refiner. Without it, there is no edge, no hunger, no focus. A man with endless time becomes a slave to distraction. A man with 1 hour learns to strike with precision. You say you need more freedom, but freedom without structure is chaos. Discipline within limits is what builds real power. It's not the man who is everything who wins. It's the man who turns less into more. That's the true warrior, the builder, the creator, the one who sees walls and says, let me learn to climb. Limits are reality's way of forcing evolution. When your space is small, you build smarter. When your energy is low, you act with intent. When your money is tight, you stretch every dollar with wisdom. You become strategic. You become aware. You become dangerous because you're efficient. Stop resenting your limits. Start respecting them. Use them. They are shaping your edge, sharpening your focus, forging your character. A comfortable man is soft, but a constrained man. A man who has to fight for every inch. He becomes sharp. He doesn't waste movements. He doesn't chase noise. He builds in silence, with purpose. Remember, it's not what you don't have that holds you back. It's what you refuse to do with what you do have. A man with no gym builds a body in the street. A man with no money finds a way to sell with a phone. A man with no followers writes like the world is watching. Why? Because he's not looking for comfort. He's looking for fire. He doesn't say, I'll start when I have more. He says, watch what I do with this. That's a mentality that builds something that lasts. Seneca once wrote, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. You're not being punished by your limitations. You're being invited. Invited to become creative. Invited to develop discipline. Invited to learn how to command your will, not your environment. And when you accept that challenge, you stop complaining. You start constructing. You stop looking at what's missing and start seeing what's possible. Every obstacle in your life is raw material. The question is, do you waste it or do you forge something with it? Constraints are tools. They build builders because a builder without limits becomes soft. But a builder within limits becomes precise, lean, and lethal. That's who you want to be. If you're struggling right now, good. Struggle is a mirror. It shows you what you've ignored, what you've taken for granted, and it forces you to adjust. You don't become better in open fields. You become better when the walls close in and you find a way anyway. Constraints develop adaptability, and adaptability is the highest form of power because the man who can adjust wins. No matter the terrain, no matter the weather, no matter what's thrown at him. So what's holding you back? Not the limit, but your resistance to the lesson it offers. Everything you need to grow is already in your environment. It's already inside of you. Your job is not to wait for more. It's to work with less. Because less makes you resourceful. Less makes you efficient. Less makes you hungry. And hunger builds empires. You will look back one day, not at the times when everything was easy, but at the times when you had nothing but your mind, your hands, and your will. Those are the moments that shaped you, that taught you how to build when others broke, that showed you what you're really made of. Because when all the cushions are gone, you learn how to land on your feet. That is power. That is control. That is freedom. So let the constraint be your coach. Let the obstacle be your training ground. Let the lack be the reason you sharpen, not the excuse you surrender to. Because if you can win here in the constraint, you can win anywhere. The world doesn't need more men who wait for perfect. It needs more men who move through pressure, who take less and create more, who turn limits into leverage. And that man is not waiting. He's working, not later, not when things align. Now, you are already equipped. You think you lack something? You tell yourself you need more time, more money, more skills, more connections. But pause. Take a breath. That breath is proof you're already equipped. You have life. You have this moment. You have a body that moves, a mind that thinks, a will that can choose. And that's all you've ever needed. You're not missing anything. You are overlooking what you already have. Modern life teaches you to chase. Chase upgrades. Chase validation. Chase things outside of you. But the Stoics knew something different. They knew that true power doesn't come from adding more. It comes from realizing what's already within. Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The poor man is not the one with little. It's the one who is always needing more. And the rich man? The one who can use what he already has. Fully, sharply, deliberately. You don't need another motivational video. You don't need the perfect setup. You don't need the world to say go. You need to start where you are, with what you've been given. Your body, your time, your attention. You already own the 3 most valuable currencies of life. The question is, are you spending them or investing them? Look at your hands. They can build. They can write. They can lift. Look at your mind. It can imagine. It can plan. It can choose. Look at your breath. Still flowing. Still here. Which means you still have a shot. So what are you doing with it? You keep waiting for the stars to align, but your feet are already touching the ground. That's all you need. Start walking. You don't need more tools. You need more focus. You don't need more hours. You need more intention. You don't need more things. You need fewer excuses. Everything external is a bonus. The real power? It's already inside. You already have the tools. The question is, can you stay focused long enough to use them? Distraction is the disease of our age. It makes you blind to your own gifts. You think you're lacking, but what you're really doing is avoiding. Avoiding the stillness. Avoiding the work. Avoiding the responsibility that comes with realizing you have no excuse. You can breathe. You can move. You can think. You can act. Everything beyond that is optional. Don't let society sell you the lie of not enough. The best ideas in history were written with ink on paper. The strongest bodies were built without supplements or gyms. The greatest minds thrived without distractions and noise. They used what they had. No complaints, no delays, no apologies. And you could do the same. You are not waiting on the world. The world is waiting on you. Waiting for you to stop comparing. Stop doubting. Stop chasing. And to start doing. Start building. Start learning. Start using what you already have fully with gratitude. Gratitude is not just a feeling. It's action. It's using what you've been given like it matters. Like it's enough. Because it is. Your body isn't perfect. Train it anyway. Your past is full of mistakes. Use the wisdom. Your tools are limited. Master them. Don't waste energy wishing for more. Channel that energy into making more of what's already in your hands. Because the man who waits for better tools will be outbuilt by the man who hammers with what he has. Every single time. You think greatness lies in having more. It doesn't. Greatness is using less and still creating impact. It's taking 5 minutes of focus over 5 hours of noise. It's choosing one deep connection over 100 shallow ones. It's writing one clear page over dreaming of 1,000. Minimalism isn't just a lifestyle. It's a weapon, a lens that removes distraction, a filter that forces you to focus. And when you live like that, you become dangerous because you're no longer waiting. You're working. You want power? Then master your tools. Not new ones, your current ones, your attention span, your habits, your breath, your inner dialogue. Most people don't use even 10% of what they have. They want more, but they haven't earned it. When you use everything you have today, only then will more be given. Nature respects effort. Effort with clarity. Effort with humility. The man who multiplies little will always be given more. And don't forget, you have time. The same 24 hours as the wisest, strongest, wealthiest men in history. The difference? How you spend it. You say you have no time, but how much of it leaks into scrolling, doubting, daydreaming? You say you're too tired, but how much of that fatigue is from mental chaos, not physical effort? Clean your use of time. Sharpen your attention. Move with calm. Act with purpose. That's the way. Your mind is the most powerful tool you own, but you must train it. Feed it the right words. Keep it focused on the right goals. Guide it when it wanders. Discipline it when it resists. Your mind can be your master or your servant. It's up to you. But you must never let it convince you that you lack something. Because you don't. You don't need new conditions. You need new commitment. The truth is simple. You already have what's required. You're not empty. You're not broken. You're not waiting for a sign. You are ready. What matters is not how much you have, but how much you use what you already carry. Your body is your temple. Your breath is your rhythm. Your time is your currency. Your attention is your sword. The question is, will you wield them? You are already equipped. The seed is there. Now you must water it. Every day, without excuse. Use what you have. Use it now. Use it fully. That's how power is built. That's how peace is found. And that's how freedom, real freedom, is earned. We live in a world obsessed with gear. The best camera, the newest laptop, the fanciest gym, the cleanest setup. Everyone wants the perfect tools. But here's the truth. None of it matters if you don't use it. You can have the most advanced equipment in the world. But if you're not moving, not creating, not doing, it's all just decoration. The man with a basic tool who moves with purpose will always outdo the man with all the tools who stands still. Because in the end, action beats everything. It beats status. It beats aesthetics. It beats potential. Action is where the real work happens. Action is what separates the dreamers from the doers. You've probably seen it. People with $5,000 cameras who never press record. People with high-end gym memberships who never sweat. People with massive followings who never say anything real. The tools are all there, but the will is missing. And on the other side, there's the guy with a cracked phone, shooting videos in his bedroom, who posts every day with fire in his voice. Guess who grows? Guess who builds? Guess who wins? Don't worship tools. Worship effort. Worship repetition. Worship the discipline of showing up. You can't buy mastery. You can only earn it through action. Again and again and again. You don't need the best camera. You need a press record. You don't need the best gym. You need to do the reps. You don't need the most expensive books. You need to sit down and study. The world will always try to sell you more gear. Because selling gear is easy. But selling discipline, selling self-mastery, that's not profitable. So they keep you chasing the next item, the next upgrade, the next excuse to delay action. But Stoic wisdom cuts through all of it. It says, control what is yours, your mind, your effort, your choices. Everything else is secondary. The Stoics didn't wait for perfect scrolls or ideal teachers. They studied, they wrote, they trained, right where they were. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations while leading armies in war. Epictetus taught philosophy in a small room with nothing. A former slave, crippled, poor, but his mind was rich. His discipline, unmatched. Because he acted. You say you can't start. Why? Because you don't have the right microphone, the right space, the right following? None of that matters. What matters is the work you do today, with what you have, exactly as you are. The path of the Stoic is not paved with perfection. It's walked with consistency. You've been tricked into thinking you need more before you're allowed to begin. But beginning is the secret. Beginning is the bridge. Beginning turns equipment into expression. Action is the filter. It shows who's real. How many hours have you spent researching gear instead of using what you already own? How many days have you spent planning instead of taking a single clear step? How much energy have you spent preparing for the right moment instead of creating it through action? Tools are not the answer. They never were. You are. Your will, your movement, your effort. Look around. The most successful creators didn't wait. They started with phones. They started with notebooks. They started in garages, basements, bedrooms. They just started. And that beginning, messy as it was what set everything in motion. They didn't worship gear. They worshipped work. They didn't obsess over aesthetics. They obsessed over discipline. And that's what made the difference. Comfort slows you down. Luxury weakens urgency. Too many resources can actually be a burden because they give you more to manage and more reasons to hesitate. But when you have less, you move cleaner, faster, sharper. You get creative. You focus. You adapt. That's power. A man with one blunt tool, used 1,000 times, will always beat the man with 10 perfect tools. Collecting dust, because power isn't in the tool, it's in the wielder, and repetition is what sharpens the blade. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to have everything in place. Start where you are, with what you have, and trust this. Consistent action compounds. One rep leads to 10. One idea leads to a project. One post leads to a movement. But it only starts if you start. If you want strength, move. If you want skill, practice. If you want confidence, act. No course will give you this. No gear will buy it. No status will fake it. You have to put in the hours. You have to make the sacrifices. You have to stay on the path, even when no one's watching. That's how progress is built. That's how mastery is earned. The Roman legions didn't win with pretty armor. They won with discipline, formation, drill, repetition. The philosopher didn't gain clarity through fancy books. He gained it through self-inquiry, through silence, through applying the same truths again and again. Repetition, not luxury, builds greatness. You're not behind. You're just distracted. The tools you have are enough. What matters now is the habit of use. Discipline is your gear. Effort is your fuel. Stillness is your guide. Everything else is noise. So the next time you feel tempted to buy something new, pause. Ask, am I really lacking this? Or am I avoiding the work? Because the man who avoids the work will always look for better tools. But the man who loves the work will use anything he's given to create something real. And over time, he becomes unstoppable. Remember this. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. Your life will be judged not by what you own, but by what you do. Not by what tools you had, but how you use them. So act. Now, because action beats equipment. Always. Gratitude builds power. You're already holding more than you realize. The problem is you're too busy looking at what you don't have. You scroll past others with more money, more gear, more success, and something in you says, I'm behind. But you're not behind. You're just ungrateful. And here's what most men don't understand. Gratitude is power, not the soft kind, not sentimental, poetic, or passive. Real gratitude sharpens you. It gives weight to your tools. It gives meaning to your effort. Because when you value what you have, truly value it, you take care of it. And when you take care of it, you grow. Think about it. A man who values his body will treat it like a temple. A man who values his time won't waste it on nonsense. A man who values his mind will feed it with clarity, not chaos. It starts with gratitude, not the kind you write in a journal once a week, but the kind you live by. When you look at your life and say, this is enough to begin. This is enough to build with. That's power. Gratitude isn't just about feeling good. It's a mental lens, a shift in how you see your circumstances. It says, I don't need perfect conditions. I need presence. I don't need a better start. I need better discipline. I don't need more. I need to use what I already have. That's where growth begins. That's where power multiplies. The Stoics knew this. They didn't teach men to crave wealth or luxury. They taught them to master themselves. And to do that, you begin by valuing the present moment. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. Gratitude is the fuel for real mastery. It makes you careful. It makes you committed. It makes you relentless. When you're not grateful, you're careless. You neglect your tools. You waste your energy. You compare, complain, delay. And the worst part? You train your mind to believe that nothing is ever enough. So even if you get more, you'll still feel empty. Because power doesn't come from what you collect. It comes from what you respect. Look around you. That phone in your hand, it's a tool billions don't have. That breath you're taking, it's life. Raw, available here. That small space you call a room, it's a fortress if you use it right. You're already equipped. Now you must honor what you've been given. There's a reason so many great men come from nothing. Because when you start with little, and you still choose to move, you build strength that the comfortable will never know. That strength comes from gratitude, not the kind you post about, the kind you practice in silence. When no one's watching, when the world says you should quit, when your results don't yet reflect your effort, but you keep going anyway, because you're thankful to even try. Gratitude sharpens purpose. It says, this is my time. This is my place. These are my tools. I will make them work. And in doing that, you gain something most never find. Inner stability. You stop needing more. You start becoming more. You stop chasing. You start building. This is the paradox. The man who thinks he lacks will always feel weak. But the man who honors what he has will grow stronger by the day. Because gratitude builds care. Care builds discipline. Discipline builds progress. Progress builds confidence. And confidence, true confidence, is unstoppable. Not loud, not fake, but grounded, real, earned. It doesn't matter how small your tools are. Gratitude multiplies them. A small income, when honored, leads to budgeting, saving, investing. A basic gym, when respected, builds real strength. A quiet space, when used well, becomes a kingdom. It's never about what you start with. It's about how deeply you commit to using it. The man who is grateful becomes dangerous because nothing shakes him. He isn't waiting. He isn't begging. He isn't stuck. He moves. He builds. He adapts. And when better tools arrive, he's already ready because he's been training with less. Gratitude doesn't mean complacency. It means ownership. You can want more, but don't ignore what you already have. Use it. Master it. Prove that you're worthy of more by fully honoring what's in front of you now. If you don't take care of $10, you won't take care of $10,000. If you don't use 20 minutes well, you won't use 20 hours. If you don't protect a little energy, you won't protect great power. Gratitude is proof you're ready for more. The Stoics didn't fear poverty. They feared dependency. They feared laziness. They feared a man who needed more before he could act. But the man who needs less, who is grateful for little, he cannot be stopped, because the world can take from him, and he still builds, because he knows, this moment is enough. These tools are enough. I am enough to begin, and that's where all strength begins. So start today. Before you look outward, look inward. What do you already have? What are you neglecting? What are you taking for granted? Use it. Respect it. Get your full attention. Turn what you have into something powerful, because this is the truth. If you can't be grateful now, you won't be grateful later. And if you're not grateful, you won't take care of your tools. And if you don't take care of your tools, you won't go anywhere. The man who builds is the man who honors the present moment, who sees sufficiency where others see lack, who uses what's within reach, instead of fantasizing about what's not. This is how power is built. Gratitude isn't weakness. It's the foundation of strength. Work in silence. Build in the dark. The world is loud. It screams for attention. It rewards noise. It praises the flashy, the viral, the visible. But you don't need the world's eyes. You need your own discipline. Because real growth doesn't happen on display. It happens in quiet, in solitude, in obscurity. Work in silence. Build in the dark. That's where true power is formed. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. You don't need another person telling you you're doing well. You need momentum. You need movement. You need to take one brick and lay it down with purpose today. No posts, no pictures, no praise, just the work. There's a reason why the strongest foundations are buried underground. No one sees them. No one talks about them, but they hold up everything. This is what you're building. While others flex with rented cars, you invest in your skills. While others perform for likes, you perform when no one is watching. While others chase the spotlight, you chase progress. You are not here to be seen. You are here to build. Understand this. Silence is not weakness. It's strength. It's control. It's patience. Lions don't need to roar to remind the jungle who they are. They walk with presence, with calm, with confidence. Be like that. Don't tell people what you're doing. Show them when it's done. The man who works in silence builds with less resistance. He doesn't waste energy explaining his vision. He doesn't need others to believe in it. He believes in it enough to act, even when no one claps for him. That's rare. That's real. Because most people don't want to work. They want to be seen working. But your path is different. You build for legacy, not attention. You build for mastery, not hype. You build because it is your responsibility, your duty, your calling. Look around. Everything meaningful you admire was once built in silence. Books, companies, bodies, character. They all started in a room. Alone, focused, raw. No spotlight. No guarantees. Just effort. You have that room right now. You have that moment. That quiet space. That humble beginning. Don't waste it wishing you had more. Use it. There's power in obscurity. No one watching means no one judging. No one watching means no pressure to perform. No one watching means full freedom to fail, to learn, to evolve. This is where you shape yourself. This is where you become solid. Because once the light does find you, you'll either be ready or you won't. And the only way you'll be ready is if you made peace with the dark. You don't need an audience. You need a mission. You don't need motivation. You need standards. You don't need noise. You need rhythm. Daily, quietly, without skipping. One page written, one workout done, one decision made. That's how great men are built. Stoic wisdom reminds us. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Let your actions define you, not your words. You don't need to convince anyone. You just need to become. Let your mornings speak. Let your habits speak. Let your results speak. All growth starts in the invisible, beneath the surface, before the world ever sees a glimpse. So build when no one cares. Build when no one claps. Build when it's hard, lonely, quiet. That's the test. That's the fire. That's the proof you mean it. And slowly, you'll notice it. Your posture will change. Your mindset will tighten. Your energy will rise. Not because the world rewarded you, but because you earned it. In silence, in sweat, in stillness. Let the noise pass you. Let the trends die out. Let the world run in circles, chasing attention. You stay grounded. You stay focused. This is your season to go unnoticed. This is your time to sharpen the blade before it ever touches the battlefield. When you work in silence, you stop comparing. You stop performing. You start evolving. Because there's no need to pretend. No need to impress. Just you and the work. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to realize that success doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being built, day after day, far from anyone's praise. And the beauty of the dark is this. It reveals who you are. Without the masks, there are no shortcuts, no filters, no applause, only repetition, only effort, only grit. And if you stay long enough, if you stay consistent enough, the results will begin to surface. Not suddenly, but undeniably, because truth always rises. You'll emerge sharper, clearer, tougher, and people will wonder, when did he level up? But they won't see the early mornings. They won't see the broken routines rebuilt. They won't see the hours of sacrifice. They'll only see the outcome, but you'll know the truth. The work was done in silence. The power was built in the dark. So stay there. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Use this season of silence to master your craft. Discipline your habits. Harden your mind. This isn't a punishment. It's preparation, because one day the light will come. And when it does, you won't need to announce yourself. Your presence will speak loud enough. Until then, build in the dark. Work in silence. Let your actions echo. Final message. Use what's in your hands. Stop waiting. Start building. What you have is enough if you choose to use it. This is not motivational fluff. It's reality. The man who wins isn't the one with the best gear, the best timing, or the best circumstances. It's the one who takes what's in his hands and moves forward, regardless of how imperfect it is. You don't need permission. You don't need another course. You don't need someone to tell you you're ready. You are ready when you decide to begin. Look around. Look at your life. Look at your resources. Look at your strengths. Look at your struggles. All of it, right now, is usable. Your pain, your past, your knowledge, your hunger, your frustrations, your mornings, your voice, your hands, your time. It's already here, but you keep waiting for more. More money, more time, more confidence, more clarity. And while you wait, life passes. The clock doesn't pause. The sun doesn't stop rising. The years don't wait for your readiness. So ask yourself, what have you done with what you already have? That is the measure of your discipline. That is the mirror of your mindset. That is the test of your will. Most people die with their tools still clean, still unused, still untouched by sweat and grit. But not you. You were meant to build. You were meant to do, to create, to shape something out of nothing. Not because it was easy, but because you decided it would be done. You might not have the best tools, but you have tools. You might not have all the answers, but you have the ability to take the next step. You might not feel ready, but readiness is a choice, not a condition. Use what's in your hands. Write it down. Right now, what do you have? Time, health, a phone, a body, skills, ideas, a story, breath, energy, pain, desire, experience, discipline, silence. Don't overlook the ordinary. That's where most people miss their shot. They wait for something bigger. But the greatness of your life will not come from something grand appearing out of nowhere. It will be carved out of the raw materials in front of you right now. This moment, this tool, this challenge, this day, that's where your future is buried. You already have enough to take one step forward. Use your voice. Use your feet. Use your mind. Use your morning. When you move with what you have, it multiplies. Confidence grows from action. Resources appear through motion. Clarity sharpens as you walk the path. But none of it begins until you act. We are not owed the luxury of perfect conditions. We are not guaranteed the right opportunity. We are not promised another chance tomorrow. What we have is what we have. And it's enough. It's enough to start something. It's enough to move with purpose. It's enough to turn one decision into a legacy if we choose to act. The problem isn't lack. The problem is blindness. You keep looking past what's already in your hands. A phone that can be used to create. A room that can become your training ground. A mind that can be focused like a blade. Hands that can build. That can write. That can lift. That can serve. That can create. What you need is already here. It always was. But you have to stop dreaming and start doing. You have to stop comparing and start committing. You have to stop chasing what you don't have and begin maximizing what you do. Because here's the truth. Everything you're waiting for is waiting on you. The results, the momentum, the change, the wealth, the impact. It's all waiting for one thing. Your decision to begin with what's already in your possession. You don't need a perfect plan. You need one clean action. You don't need 100 steps. You need one done with focus and intention. You don't need a crowd. You need a mirror. You need to look at yourself and say, enough talking. It's time. Time to move. Time to act. Time to build. The man who builds with little becomes the man who can be trusted with more. Because when you prove that you're a good steward of your present, your future expands. Not because of luck, but because of earned strength, earned focus, earned power. Everything in your life is waiting on your courage to act. Stop underestimating what you already carry. Stop waiting for a better setup. Stop watching others use their tools while yours collect dust. Start where you are. Use what you have. Build with what's already in your hands. Not next week. Not tomorrow. Now. That small notebook? Write in it. That small room? Train in it. That small idea? Start building it. That voice inside you? Stop ignoring it. It is not about the size of your tools. It's about the size of your will. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. Read that again. This is the essence of Stoicism. Not to complain, not to compare, not to wish, but to use. To take what is within reach and make it sacred through discipline and intention. That is power. That is wealth. That is freedom. Freedom doesn't come from having everything. It comes from needing nothing but your own will. So this is your challenge. Take inventory of what you have. Not someday. Today. Write it down. Name it. Own it. Then act. One step. One use. One motion. That's how it begins. With what's in your hands. You don't need more time. You don't need more luck. You don't need more praise. You need to decide, right now, to move, to build, to use what's already yours. Because if you can't use little, you'll never handle more. Use it now.